A very good day to you. If you've joined us, you're on the Fifth Connection, a channel where we explore various topics. And this morning, we are privileged to be joined by Owen Hendricks. Owen Hendricks, how are you?
Hi, Terry. Good day to you, my good friend. Yes, I'm doing pretty good, thank you. And it's good to hear your voice again and to once again be connected to the Fifth Connection. And yeah, this is on my channel as well. Thank you for inviting me to collaborate with you on this joint effort here this morning. And yeah, I'm very excited, very frank, and I feel very privileged. This is Hope Talk, where we are bold and unapologetic, where hope has a home, where hope does not introduce fear, but eliminates all the fear and gives you something to look forward to. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity, Terry. So yeah, we've known each other for a long time, and we've done some things together. And yeah, well, God has designed it and organized that we are, started again all over again, and see, how we can really make an impact in a
There we go.
very small way, my friend. So
Oh, this is
thank
great.
you for having
You're
me.
welcome. You're welcome. Good to be here.
Yeah. So I was thinking, it would be a good idea if we would maybe just pick up on a conversation. I think that we left off some time ago, and sometimes, we shy away from these kind of things because we don't want to really offend people. And really, it's not the idea. It's not to offend people, but really sometimes to challenge our thinking, because we are all bent in a different way, so we don't all think the same, we don't all reason the same, we don't have the same sort of IQs and all kinds of EQs and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm sure we can find common ground and see how we can best, also be our blessing to many and to one another here this morning. Waiting on a good friend of ours also to join in a little later, as we are on, Terry. So thank you. I want to say thank you for this privilege. You'll never believe how honored I feel to be a part of the Fifth Connection.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Owen, for coming on, man.
Yeah. Terry, the subject, or maybe our conversation for today, which I'm sure you wouldn't mind, and I think that you can give a lot of input into this. I do value the your input and the vast amount of knowledge that you have concerning various topics, especially biblical issues, and yeah, like even some world issues as well. I stand amazed sometimes at the amount of information that you share, and that's how we can sort of bounce things off each other and find, you know, let's call it common ground, and learn from one another and be educated by each other, which I think is important. So church positions. Let's talk about the church and how positions have gone to let's call it simply to people's heads, and how it has really boosted their egos and elevated them somehow to a place maybe where where God maybe has not lifted them to or placed them on, and how there is the pursuit of this kind of thing, and where it goes wrong, and how it falls apart. And sometimes, let's address the elephant in the room today. Let's start there. And nobody wants to do it because nobody wants to offend, as I said earlier. But we need to do that. We need to talk about these things. So that is the angle that I would like to talk about this morning. How do we ascertain whether somebody is really called of God? And because position does not necessarily mean that God has called you. Now, you can correct me here. Please do. Jesus himself said that many are called, but few are chosen. I've been thinking about these the called and the chosen. What is the difference between the called and the chosen? Now we know Kaleo, we know the chosen one. Does Jesus choose? Does he call? He called disciples to follow him, but when he chooses somebody to be of service for him, there's a difference in that he just called him to follow. Um, talk to us, Terry, because I think you can give a lot of input and insight into that one. Please do so.
Well, I think just to land on the sense of calling, God calls believers, right, to vocations. He calls the unsaved to salvation, and he calls believers to vocations.
Okay.
Right? And I think one needs to keep that distinction. The problem is we've added a whole lot of other callings in there. We talk about an effectual call and a common call. Well, again, is that what the text says? The text talks about, calling to salvation and calling to vocation. In other words, what God uniquely calls you to in serving him. You bring an angle, you bring gifts, you bring abilities, you bring capacities that he utilizes in serving others. And I think the beauty of a sense of call is a call is something that can drive you, but more than driving you, it can draw you. And I think so often we don't see calling as something that draws you. It's more something that drives us. And the impression with driving is it's beating us over the head to do. Whereas the drawing analogy is a very tender one. It's a beautiful one. I'm drawn to that thing. I'm drawn to people, to serve them, to help them understand things with the gifting and the capacity I have. I love to clarify things and draw people in and help them refine their thinking in understanding something. So there is a distinction, of course, between, are you called or are you driven? I think one who's driven does things sort of out of just a pure duty. No smile on his face. There's a gritting of the teeth. And I know if we go into the whole area of choosing now, that's a whole nother area that I don't want to go into at the moment. But I think calling is such a tender image. He calls us to salvation and he calls us to vocations, such as pastor, teacher, apostle, elder. We are called into those vocations. Titus 3 talks about being involved in honorable occupations. So for me, calling is a very tender image. It's what draws me, draws my heart to serve. And to view it from that angle changes how I view position. Position is just position, right? I don't know what your thoughts on that are. That may be interesting to hear some of your thoughts on position.
Yeah. I'll answer on that one just now. What has been my concern, not of late, but for a while now. Look, I've been in ministry for 30 years. And then, of course, direction changed and ministry has changed. I no longer have a congregation. I no longer have a physical ministry, but this is what I do. This is what we do now. And you've probably been in ministry much more than 30 years, longer than I've been. The nagging question that always comes to my mind is, how does one know? Because there are many, and I'm going to get to that question, because I know there are some watching now. They're watching this video, and they probably find themselves in this position. There are some who aspire to be there, and they look at it from the outside looking in, and it looks like a glamorous place to be. There's a group of people, there is a platform, there's a pulpit, there's all kinds of things that goes along with that dynamic, certain dynamics. And from the outside, or from the pew, looking at that, is what many a young man, or man in particular, in general, even women, let's not discriminate. Even women, they aspire, they look at that and they say, that is what I want. And there are many who are in the business sphere, in the business sector, who also looks at this and say, well, this looks like a good place to be. So I'm a Christian, and I somehow feel that I can make a difference, and I've got the ability to articulate facts. I'm charismatic in my personality. I capture the attention of people when I talk. I'm animated. So maybe that's confirmation. And some have, confirmed this. God has called me. There's this gift and there's that calling upon my life. How does one really ascertain whether it is God or is not God? Because one can operate within that sphere, within that domain, purely on your personality and your influence that you have and that you carry. How does one really determine? And I think there are many who are making shipwreck of their lives and the lives of people. Let's just call it that. There are many who don't even know what Scripture says, and they say, I think the Lord is saying this to us, and God told me to say to you, type of thing. But that is not necessarily what God is saying within the context of His Word. Terry, talk to me, and talk to me, my friend. I want, because we are collaborating, Hope Christian Church.
You can say Hope Christian.
Yeah. That was
Hope is
the
a-
name of my ministry. It still is right now. It still is the name of the ministry. But Hope Talk, and Fifth Connection. There's a connection between Hope Talk and Fifth Connection. So it's going to be on air. It is on air. It's live right now on your radio platform. And I think you broadcast on somewhat 15 other platforms, do you? Social media platforms. Am I right?
Yep.
So everybody has access to this. It's going to be there on YouTube. It's going to be on Facebook. It's going to be on, are you on X as well?
I'm on X and on YouTube, yeah. Yep.
Okay, on YouTube.
Yep.
So it's going to be on there. And we would love people to comment, give their input, and even use that number, even call in. Because that's at the Fifth Connection studio live right now. And Terry will take your call, and we will see how we can, answer your questions or listen to your comment best as we possibly can. So please, Terry, talk to us about just what I've mentioned right now, please, sir. I know I've talked a lot.
No, I think my initial response to positions of leadership, and I think a lot of it was in my early days, even as a child, was informed by the fact that I really struggled with any authoritarian figure in my own life. I really struggled with it. With a very dominant mom who had the whip hand, you come up with a particular bent, and one of the bents that I came up with was anti-authoritarian. That's not a good thing. I can tell you now, because any form of authority is what you react to. And it's taken a long while it's taken me a long while to get cured of that. Yeah. I can tell you now. So you know something of my story, because there's a backdrop here to answering that question from my vantage point. And I remember by the time I came to know the Lord, I was a real rebel, because I would take on anybody, no matter what his position was. I would take him on. Vocally, verbally, I would take them on. I took my parents on. And I wasn't always very nice. I never took them on in a nice way. And then I came to the elders. Well, the elders didn't stand a chance, because I was in attack mode all the time. Yeah. So only one elder that could really calm me, and I'll tell you why he was able to do that in a moment, which answers the question again about position versus function of leaders. I started reacting to one particular figure, one elder, because I considered him a figurehead elder. He just had the title of elder. Yeah. But he could not handle the scriptures adequately. And he was just so hypocritical in his lifestyle. The other elder, on the other hand, was a functional leader. He understood what eldership was. It's a function you execute in the life of the believing community. Right? I couldn't care if you called him the caretaker. He would still function as an elder is called to function. So there are functions executed in the believing community. Right. Right? Even the word pastor, only once it appears as a title. Right. And then it's a plural title, pastors and teachers. Teachers would be a subset of the category of pastor, right?
Mm.
In Ephesians 4. But the rest of the time the word is used, it's always the word shepherd. It's always used in the functional sense. This is a function.
Mm.
And it's not a single man function, it's a plural men function.
Right.
Now already you can see where we go off. We just have one guru, one assembly, one guru, which is already a slant that causes us major problems. I mean, if you think of the men who have fallen in ministry,
Right.
we set up ourselves as major candidates for big falls, right? Not little falls in Joburg. I didn't live far from little falls, but big falls, because already our concept is so slanted, right? So it's been quite a journey for me to learn what these functions are about. To pastor people is a function. Now, if you want to call it a position, you call it that. I don't think the biblical text goes there. The biblical text says, when the disciples asked Jesus, I think it's around about Matthew 20, they ask him, Lord, give it to us that one of us sit on your right hand and the other one on your left hand. And then Jesus goes into explaining or telling a story about how that among the Gentiles, position is lorded over people.
Right.
But he makes a very interesting comment. He says, not so among you. There's no place for a pastor or pastors or elders or bishops lording their position over the people. Even 1 Peter 5. In 1 Peter 5, Peter talks about, I speak to you, I'm an apostle, but I speak to you as a fellow elder.
Right.
That you do not lord your position over people. Right? So it's been quite a journey for me even to understand that, because you tend to reject authority out of hand from my vantage point until you learn that no, there's a thing such as people in authority over you, but there are people who are qualified to be in authority over you because their life qualifies them, not their title qualifies them.
Right.
You see the problem? My title will do nothing for me, and if people just submit because of a title, well, there's a problem there. Now, we're not talking about authority, external to the believing community, because you will always have somebody in authority over you. When a cop stops me on the street, do I have a relationship with that cop? No.
Right.
But purely on the basis of the badge that he wears, he's in authority over me in the sphere, because he says, I've been speeding. So there I'll have to, ek moet buk.
Right. Yeah.
I need to.
Yes.
But I think when you come into the believing community, the style of leadership is very different. It's leadership on the basis of character. It's authentic character that becomes the basis you move from, not the title that is given you. And I think this is really where we start choking, because we think because hy is die pastoor, hy is die apostle. In many circles, I mean, we in a situation here where the guy is called Nya Apostle. And I'm thinking, that is just a title. If you are saying there's something conferred in the title, then, well, I think I have a real problem with that. But your authority is driven from the fact that your character qualifies you to function in a particular way. And people are called into those, call it positions. I don't have a better word for it. Because even the word crashes. The word doesn't do the function justice. Because the word poimen is the word for shepherd.
Right.
And in every other time the word appears in the New Testament is used in a functional way, in the middle voice, incidentally. Poimenos. And poimenos means you function as a shepherd. You don't just carry a label on your forehead that says shepherd. So I think a lot of that just to say that these have to do with functions in the believing community. And we are called to different functions, not by title, but by capacities. What is a
Right.
capacity? A capacity is a quality of engaging. Call it a gifting. It's a motivational strength that God gives to us, at least one per person, at least one. Some have more gifts than that. And remember, the gift lists in the New Testament are not exhaustive categories either, because of the 4 lists that are mentioned, they are all different lists.
Right.
And some add to the list,
Yeah.
some detract from the list, which tells you that he's doing an assortment here. He's not
Yes.
talking exhaustively about all the gifts that exist in the assembly. So that's already a big one. So I don't know how helpful this would be, but I think it really helps to view these so-called positions as functions that are executed in the context of the assembly. That really helps me think my way through.
Yeah.
That they are character-based. They are not content-driven. It's not how much you know that makes you a leader. How many leaders do you know, Owen? They know the scriptures pretty well, but their lives do not qualify them as elders or pastors or overseers. So
And I think that's quite a lot of information there, Terran. And I think it's needful, and I'm sure that those who are watching are going to appreciate this conversation. And this is just the introduction to maybe where we're going. It's not a sort of heavy, packed full of doctrine and packed full of theology. It is just as we're unpacking, and Terry is going to assist us in a huge way. And for you watching there, it's been a great concern. My observation, it's amazing how I think I said this to you one day, how when you're in a situation, when you're in a setup, you don't see these things, but when you're now on the outside looking in, you see where you've also gone wrong, and and what kind of assistance can one be to those who are in that setup, who are going in the same direction that you have gone, and they are heading for some sort of disastrous event that will happen at some point in their lives, because there are many out there who feel that they have they have this, what is called a special anointing, whatever that means, to do certain things, and to have authority over people. And God has called me, not you. You listen to what God,
yes,
because God
yes.
spoke to me to say to you. So you don't question what God tells me to say to you. Wow. So that is that. I think that's where the whole thing falls apart. You
Right,
know,
right.
talk to us. I know you. I know you are wanting to say something on that. Please do. Please do chip in whenever
Well,
you can.
there's so much on this. You lead
Yeah.
by example, and somehow we think that leaders fall outside of that category. You lead by the strength of the character of your life. Now,
Yeah. Good
character
point.
and personality are not two and the same things, and I think often we convolute those two. We collapse them into one. Your character is that which God is able to mold and develop, right? And it's a growing, maturing journey. I need to develop in my character. We call it Christ-like character. But my personality doesn't change. You are still Owen Hendricks. You can have, you know, a nip and tuck, but it won't do much difference. You're still Owen Hendricks,
Yeah. Sure.
right? You can have a facelift. In your personality, you're Owen Hendricks, but in your character, you need to be transforming.
Right.
And I think this is really where leaders crash, purely because they are called pastor. And in some of our circles that we move, the title opens doors. The title alone, the pastor is here, and everybody is on,
Right.
standard is.
Yeah. Yeah. Ready to serve.
I must tell you a little quick story.
Yeah.
In Bonteheuwel, where we ministered, we just started
Yes.
serving there, and I was still single. And I pulled up with my car. I had a white Cressida, and unbeknownst to us, there was
Yeah.
at a lot of these homes, the kids would
Yeah.
be the lookout. They would stand at the gate to be
Mm.
the lookout for many
Mm.
different reasons. But this boy on this day ran inside,
Mm.
and we only heard it afterwards. When my car pulled up, he ran in and he said, "Mama, hier kom die Here."
Oh, what a shock.
Now, I share that with you because there is
Yeah.
that idea that Jesus has just rocked up,
Right.
The
Culture,
title,
eh? Yeah.
culture. And our
Mm.
culture informs how we
Mm.
understand these categories. And he's a man just like us.
Yeah.
But his authority is not generated from his title. I want us to be very clear on that, Owen. It
I
doesn't
want to
come
write
from
that
the
down.
title, it comes from the power of a transforming life. Number one. And number two, the authority of the scriptures. So it's first the authority of the scriptures, and on the basis of the authority of the scriptures, a man's power, a man's authority is driven from the basis of his transforming lifestyle.
Wow.
Now, that tells you something very different right away.
Wow.
And I go back to my own exposure as a child. I was very reactionary toward authority, anti-authoritarian. And I had to come to learn that there's nothing wrong with authority per se. It's your attitude to them and what qualifies a leader to be a leader. He qualifies on the basis God has called him, but God calls us on the basis and strength of our character transformation. You see, we have this idea that it's a title and a badge that is hooked on our jersey. So, pastor is hooked onto my jersey. Irrespective of those two things don't function like that. Calling has to do with vocation, what God calls you to, with your gift mix. And by gift mix, I mean your spiritual motivational gifting together with your personality, your character, your skill set, and all of that. I call it AAA. AAA doesn't stand for American Automobile Association. It stands for attributes, assets, right? Achievements are all in there. It's just a simple way of putting it together. My gift mix comes into this calling.
Yeah.
That's why when we say he is a pastor, I hope we understand that we are making a character evaluation about how the person functions.
Right.
He is a pastor versus he's wearing the badge. You see the difficulty that we have.
Right.
If you look at the character qualifications for elder, bishop, and pastor, which is one and the same person.
Absolutely.
Right?
Presbyteros.
They are character lists that talk about what character traits need to be evident in the home, in the marriage, in the assembly, with the sheep, and call it with the goats outside. Unbelievers. Not a nice thing to call them goats, but they're outside of the family. But
yeah,
I think of Timothy. Timothy was called as a pastor, elder, teacher, prophet. He was multi-gifted as a young man, but he had a good reputation with outsiders. Paul says, you can bring him along. I want him there because he has a good reputation with outsiders.
Right. Yes.
How many of our pastors, elders, bishops qualify? Because they have a good reputation amongst pagans. Now, you see, again, we don't think like that, Owen. We don't think like that. We think this, when I'm inducted, something magical happens. Oh, we are given to magic as believers. You'd swear blind, God is a cosmic genie, I rub the lamp and out jumps God. And what are your 3 wishes?
Yeah.
And I give my 3 wishes. And when he's done, we call him to go back into the genie in the bottle. So we do have what a buddy of mine calls a Hebraic Megazeus view of God. It's a Hebrew Greek view of God.
Oh, right.
It's like a magnified Zeus.
Okay, I hear you. Yeah.
I'm often tempted to say that that's how people view God. It's a cosmic genie, a cosmic Santa Claus. So that when he calls Owen Williams, something magical happens to Owen. Now, that is, I don't believe that for a moment, that is where the biblical text lands.
Right.
You see? But God's calling of me is a dynamic thing. And can you lose your calling? I think you can. You can lose the way because your position goes to your head. And what happens? I lose the basis from which to move in this calling.
Right.
Now, of course,
Yeah.
we don't talk about that because we say it's the Lord's anointed and you don't mess with him. But I think the way I've come up through the ranks has really challenged me to think this thing through very, very carefully. If I'm a singular pastor in a small believing community, I can concede that because the group is small, just 12 believers, one pastor, one elder over them, but I don't lord it over them. I become the spokesperson, like Peter was the spokesperson for the elder team, for the disciple team. There was a team inside of that team,
Right.
4 men.
Yeah.
And inside of that 4-man selection, there was one who was the mouthpiece, Peter. So you can make a strong case for a single mouthpiece that speaks for the group. But you see, we've taken that way beyond spiritual dimensions and we make him the superstar of the megachurch.
Right.
Now, there's no mandate for that. Then you wonder why when these guys crash, they crash out of existence, my brother. And I say that humbly because many of our compadres have crashed. And we are still here by grace. Maybe we've experienced what a fall looks like. Maybe you've experienced what a fall looks like in your own life. But you see, we really set ourselves up because we misunderstand this thing of being called of God. And we confuse that with election. We talk about election as election to salvation. Well, election is never to salvation. It's to service.
That's right.
That's how the word is always used. Election is to service. Election is never mentioned in relation to salvation.
Right.
That's a whole nother discussion, which
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
really want to go into now. But even on our terminology, we are already wrong-headed with our terms. And we think these terms are imbibed with magical power. Pastor Owen, Pastor Terry. Well, how about saying servant Owen? Because in that Matthew passage, Jesus says, it will not be so among you.
Yeah.
But let the greatest among you be your
Servant.
Doesn't even use the word pastor. Doesn't even use the word episcopos or presbyter. This is servant.
Yeah.
Let your badge be servant. That's what qualifies you for this and in this endeavor. So I know that's a lot of stuff I'm throwing in there, but you can carpet bomb every inch of what I've been saying, and because it makes for very vibrant discussion, I think, and open.
No, it certainly does. It certainly does, Terry. And you know what? Those are the issues I think that the church faces at large. And there are many believers out there, I think, who have become very disappointed, disgruntled, in a sense, discouraged, also to the point of not even wanting to attend a church anymore because of this kind of thing. And that they see around them right now, there's this whole new, what it is, I don't know. There's this new wave of leadership in ministry. Let's call it those in top positions, such as I don't know how they get to this, becoming bishops and apostles and prophets and all kinds of other things. So these are the kind of things that needs to be addressed, and nobody wants to speak into it really. And within our context where we find ourselves, there is the Western world that speaks something as well, speaks into it. That there are many who can speak well into it as well. But I think from within our context where we find ourselves,
Yep.
South Africa, let's call a spade and not a garden tool within South Africa. We need to really get in touch with reality and what the scriptures really say about those things, and then be willing enough to admit that, look, sorry, thought it was, it's really not what it is, what I thought it would be. I'm willing to concede, and say, right, this, I'm not going to go in that direction anymore. I'm not going to regard myself and give myself a title, because I'm really not uh, gifted to occupy such a position, since I have not been assigned that responsibility by God Himself with His choosing of me. So I think there is a lot that one can unpack with these things, Terence. And I'm sure there are other men of God also who are wondering, what is this all about, and where did it start? Who is the guru that created so much confusions? Who are the gurus that is causing
Mm.
so much chaos within the church
Mm.
today, influencing
Mm.
people in that sense of the word?
I think
So
we're gonna see a revival even around that issue. Number one, how we do worship, how we
yeah,
do church, and how we
yeah,
do leadership.
right.
Because Matthew 20 says, "Let the greatest among you,
Be the
among,
most. Mm,
be your servant."
yeah,
Now, how do you figure
yeah.
that?
Servant
The
leadership, right?
greater my servant index,
Mm,
in a sense, the higher I rise in the community because of my life is exemplary versus
mm,
I got the title.
mm,
Now, I also think there's a very dynamic leadership is a dynamic thing. It's never static. There's sometimes a leader needs to pull back. Sometimes a leader needs to lead from the front. We always say good leaders lead from the back. There are times you need to lead from the front
mm,
because it's a dynamic thing. And
yeah.
there are times you just move to the back. En so, soos hulle sê in Afrikaans, jy trek die perde terug.
Mm,
You let it go, let it go.
right.
And I think a leadership is so dynamic. Just think through this image for a moment. A leader is over,
Mm,
he's under, and he's
mm,
among a group all at one at the
right.
same time. Over, under,
And
and
among.
among.
Mm,
Over, under, and in.
wow.
Now, how do you balance that one? That's what makes leadership such a challenging thing.
Mm,
Mandela would always say, I didn't get here because I'm smart. I had a group of people around me.
that's
That's
right.
one aspect of leadership.
Mm,
But there were times he had to lead. When Codessa talks, I remember when they came to a halt.
mm,
Why did they come to a halt? Because there was disagreement between
mm,
the alliance parties and the ANC, right?
right.
In the discussion. And what did Mandela say? I'm not going to talk anymore.
Yeah.
Now, you can say he did it single-handedly, but he did it in consultation because he understood leadership. But he was the spokesman, and he led the charge, and he could give the charge over to the MPs as well.
Yeah.
Now, Owen, I think in my mind, that's what makes leadership such a dynamic thing. And I think my early fights, my early knockdown, drag-out fights in the denomination we were in was surrounding those issues. The style of leadership, the quality of leadership. Yeah, there was no talking into those things. Guys were just threatened because you took them on, you see. And yet, you're not there based upon your own smarts. You're there based upon the power of your testimony. That's why I think sometimes the more powerful leaders in a church are the informal leaders. They don't have the titles.
Right. Right.
But in a sense, they are ruling the roost, either positively or negatively, because they are ruling from a position of strength. And the position of strength is tied to character, not to title.
Right.
Character. If you
I like
remember
that.
anything about the leadership resources I worked with a number of years ago, Bill's sort of jingle was character, bolstered by content, produces competence.
Wow.
Character, content, competence. But content wasn't at the apex. You see, in many outfits, it's the
Character.
one who knows the most,
Mm.
right? The one who knows the most. Well, how about the one who lives right? Be the one who's leading, right? So content and competence bolsters the character,
Mm.
not the other way around.
Mm.
How many of our guys are so eloquent, Owen, hulle kan kat uit 'n bos uitpraat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But you watch their lives. Oh
Mm.
my goodness gracious me. We leave that to politicians, don't we? We tend to, yeah.
Yeah.
'n politicus praat 'n hond uit 'n bos uit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But when you see the people of God doing it, it's a very serious thing
Mm.
because it's based upon the strength index of your life.
Mm.
That's why I hate it when people say, "Oh, you know so much." I say, "Oh, good night, another one.
Mm.
What have I missed?" And when somebody says, "Man, I've been watching you long enough and I see your life transforming."
Mm.
I think I mentioned to you the greatest compliment I have ever gotten from my children, and I think I ever would get is, "Dad, but we've seen you change and changing." Because that's what it's about.
Right.
It's not about being their dad. That's a title, daddy. I gave them
Yeah.
biological birth. How many daddies have run away?
Mm.
Owen, 63% of our young people are growing up without fathers.
Others. Right.
That's a South African stat, according to the
Wow.
2021 last census that was done.
Right.
63 to 65%.
That's a huge
Can
number.
you see why we have such great trouble in our culture, in our churches, in our marriages? Our men don't know how to lead. In our churches, men don't know how to lead.
Right.
They lead with from extreme positions, The characters come out cronky and wonky. So this is a huge subject. I would say we're not even scratching the surface because we're talking to so many areas, and maybe what we should do in another episode is just drill down on one aspect of it.
Yes.
And start to pan the depths, because this is very convicting stuff. What makes me a leader? What makes you a leader? Well, that's a very interesting discussion.
Absolutely.
I've been told I'm a leader, so that I'm a leader.
Yeah, I think when we unpack it one by one, and I'm sure that those who are viewing, the viewers out there, and those who are listening by radio, I'm sure that is also what you would love to be a part of in this conversation. How we're going to unpack all of this that we've been talking about, and more. There's so much more, because I have many questions, and I don't think we're going to have enough time, on this slot to talk about all of those things. We don't want to bore you with too much information, but we had to start this conversation somewhere, somehow.
Yep.
We had to get this started, and I believe this is the platform right now that was set for that. Terry, we can even develop this into an online sort of a conference seminar type of thing. I don't know which way it's going to, how it's going to evolve, but surely we can give a little bit of input and hope it would help somehow, amidst all of the chaos and confusion that's out there, that is keeping people bound, that is keeping people sort of fearful of entering into an environment where they once were, and all of these things, they've noticed it around them and they've left. They've become discouraged, disheartened, to the point of, I won't go back there again. I would rather be at home, and I'm safer here than I am in that space. And so I think it is probably the right time to do this. I'm not going to say the right season, because everybody's talking about seasons, and I'm still confused about the seasons. There are more seasons in the that they talk about than I'm aware of. I'm aware of 4. They have more.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, maybe we should just deal with next time we're doing it, deal with just one question, just one.
Yes.
There are so many, and
Yes.
I've just sketched to you some of my journey and how I entered that dialogue. but from a point of view of how I grew up and the home I grew up in.
Mm,
So I brought a particular slant to it, and
mm.
what
Appreciate
I
that.
brought to the discussion was attack mode,
Mm.
purely attack mode, because I knew no other mode. You
Right.
see, and you
Yeah.
take that into your leadership style. Your
Mm,
leadership style is attack mode,
mm,
right?
mm.
So I became an attack lamb.
Right. The tech
Because
lab.
an attack
Yeah.
lamb's got a horn on his forehead. And you know, we laugh about it now, but it was a very painful journey to walk, to learn,
Yeah.
you know,
And I
and then
think, maybe one thing you're right, because that is what it was the norm to you. So that is just the way I am. It's how God has wired me, but really not so, because that is developed over time. And we choose to be that way. Yeah, I could
absolutely.
I could probably speak about many things concerning myself too.
Mm.
But we don't want to bore you with everything about ourselves. I'm grateful for
But it's good
Terry's.
to go back and forth. I would love that we go back and forth.
Absolutely, sir.
Yeah, and give us some of your early perceptions of leadership
Oh
and how
yeah,
you viewed
okay.
it. Now, we're not
Yeah,
going to do psychological strip teasers here, but
yes,
also to give people glimpses of
yes,
for all of us, it's been a growing journey. We
yeah,
didn't have it down from day one. I
yes.
mean, I was single when I went into the pastorate, 22
Mm.
years old.
Wow.
You tell me, what does a 22-year-old know about life and living?
Mm.
Some would say, oh, but Spurgeon was 20. I ain't Spurgeon, man. Why are you not jumping to
Yeah,
maybe an exception, Um,
yes.
talk about how we mess up and how young
Mm.
people can mess up their lives because
Yeah.
those who disciple them are overlooking some major issues here. Our
Mm.
usefulness is most times is a problem. Why does Paul say don't put a novice into leadership?
Wow.
There's a reason for that, you know. And I've often thought that I possibly went in too early. I think so, because I think of some of the decisions I made. Oh my goodness gracious me.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, let's just tackle one question, and not even two, just one, man, and go at
Right.
it. And we can say after the session, boy, that was a good dialogue around a hard issue
Yeah,
that had to do with
I
leadership
agree.
and position.
Mm.
So,
Mm.
so
I agree 100%.
looking forward to the next exciting episode, Owen.
Yes, no, certainly, certainly, and I'm looking forward to how, together we could find some, answers, not all of it, but some of the answers based as we filter through the grid of Scripture, Terry.
Mm,
And I'm sure there are those who are wanting to give input as well, that are viewing this program, this
mm.
collaboration between Fifth Connection and Hope Talk. Um,
There we go.
yeah, God is just a great sense of humor, and the way he does
Absolutely.
things, and he
Absolutely.
never ceases to surprise me. So yeah,
Well,
you can
I'm
come in.
open to how soon you want us to do another episode.
Yesterday is yesterday
Yesterday. Well,
soon enough.
yesterday is. It sounds like a Beatles song, right?
Yesterday is dead and gone. Tomorrow
All my
is out of
troubles seem
sight.
so far away.
Hey, yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness.
So
Well,
so
you give date and time, Owen, and let's have a good faith dialogue around these issues. I
all
think
right, okay, Terry. Can I
we're
encourage
looking forward.
those who are watching or viewing here and listening to this program, just to comment, to like, and share, and please do send in your comments. Comment right now. You're live if you're watching this right now. It will be on the Fifth Connection platform, and Terry will get back to you. This is also going to be broadcast live on Hope Talk. Immediately
Great.
after this broadcast, we will dump it onto my podcast, and it will be there as well. So we'll have it on two
Lovely.
platforms. All right, and then
Lovely.
and then we'll take it from there. We hope to hear from you soon, and hope that we've been a
Lovely.
blessing somehow in this beginning of a great conversation. I believe we hope that we've at least sparked off an interest, and maybe gotten your appetite just a little wet, for where we are going to with this. We might have sounded like we're all over the show this morning, but believe me, we are not all over the show. There's a method
Mm.
to the madness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Owen, it
So
was
I
good
want to say
hearing
thank
you
you
this
very much.
morning. So I'm
Yeah.
waiting for the cue from you. as to when that next episode is going to happen.
All right,
So
my good friend Terence,
you're
and
welcome.
hopefully Desmond would be joining us the next time, and
That'll
then
be
we can
fun.
have some more of these, wonderful men of God, with us on engaging on this platform as well.
That'll be fun. Thanks, Owen.
Absolutely.
And
God bless you.
goodbye for now. Sure.
Goodbye.